It turns out Marvel Comics lied to us. These QR codes are not just going to be going on within X-Men. They're expanding out. And the thing that Doc and I predicted months ago, once they had the red band editions, the interior variants during Blood Hunt, that it was going to expand, that is also expanding outside of Marvel. And we are going to talk about some of these stupid-ass gimmicks here, Doc, that have me very frustrated.
I kind of feel like I want to, pull a razor fist right now, just start spinning around in my chair, flipping the bird, going, ha ha, fuck you, I was right. We nailed it on everything.
Absolutely. So if you were reading Marvel Comics this week, you would have noticed a new QR code when Marvel Comics broke its own previous record by killing off a major character and bringing them back in the same comic. In a twist, however, the resurrection occurred not inside the comic book itself, but on a digital page that could only be viewed by scanning a QR code in the back of Iron Fist 50th anniversary. That's right, they killed off Danny Rand and they brought him back in the same comic book. But if you didn't have a digital device to scan the code, or you just don't want to partake, you wouldn't even know that he came back, Doc.
And this is the problem. They're burying key plot elements or character introductions or anything else like that. They're burying them on an out of medium platform. In this case, it's on some website that's probably going to eventually get abandoned, like every other website does on the planet when it runs its course.
Absolutely. And this is pretty crazy stuff because, you think about Iron Fist 50th anniversary, it's a milestone comic book. There's a reason that collectors and speculators are coming in there. It's not to get QR codes. It's to actually get the events in the comic book in there that are actually going to make them, potentially worth money in the future. This is going to backfire on them. Speculators and collectors are going to be very pissed off once they realize they've hidden the valuable stuff.
Marvel's entire business model for the last few years has been trying to bilk collectors and completionists and speculators out of as much money as humanly possible. It has nothing to do with actually selling a comic book story. It's about gimmickry and speculators. Now, granted, throughout history, that's always been kind of part and parcel.
It's baked in.
Yeah, it's baked into the comic book industry. It's something that we expect. However, all of that stuff, that important stuff, was always done within the comic book that you were buying. Now, they are breaking the cardinal rule, which is if you were going to try to sell people things that they will buy multiple of so that they could potentially have a thing of value in the future to then flip, you actually have to put that thing inside the comic. The QR code itself is irrelevant. It's not of value. The actual printed page is of value. Now you are changing that consensus so that that comic doesn't actually matter. What happens when you do that? All those people that you have built your entire business model around will stop buying it.
And we were told this was an X-Men thing. It was only going to happen in first editions of X-Men. And then it was going to be phased out because they realized they made a mistake. And that clearly was a lie. It's in other Marvel comics. Iron Fist is not an X-Men character.
But this is the typical Marvel way these days. At least before, they would try to kind of semi-tell the truth, but in a really twisted way. Now they're just straight up lying to you. They won't get rid of it until it starts actually affecting the bottom line. And just like I told everyone regarding the interior variant red band versions, do not buy it because you will support the thing that they are doing. Look, when you get to the store, flip to the last page. Is there a QR code? Put that book back on the shelf. Let it rot there.
But what if you want another Iron Fist book? They don't have an ongoing Iron Fist. They haven't for a very long time. It's a character that they don't feature very often. If you want to send Marvel Comics a message that you want more Iron Fist, you almost have to support this book.
Yeah, they've created a catch-22. But look, if you want more Iron Fist, when you're in the comic shop, I guarantee there's lots of back issues there. Yeah, Marvel doesn't see a dime out of it. But you know what that means? You have to send a message to the store to not buy those things with the gimmickry, with the bullshit in it. Once they stop buying it from Marvel, they'll stop producing it. You have to send a message. You still buy Iron Fist, buy a trade, buy a back issue, buy an omnibus, but don't buy this. And then when they ask, well, there's a new Iron Fist. Yeah, it's got a QR code in the back. I won't buy it.
I don't know that you read the entire comic book. I didn't either because I skipped the Justina Ireland and Alyssa Wong stories because who wouldn't? But there's something else about this book that really cheesed me off. I definitely want to bring it up here. The final story in Iron Fist 50th anniversary by Jason Liu and Will Portacio sees Danny Rand celebrate his 34th birthday. Rand is subsequently murdered by Chi Lin. However, by scanning a QR code at the end of the comic, readers can see a page set weeks later and Rand's skeletal hand bursts out of the ground at his gravesite, obviously covering what happened in there. But the artist himself, Will Portacio, doesn't do a lot of mainstream comic books anymore. Sometimes he comes back for an anthology or some type of celebratory comic book like this one, 50th anniversary of Iron Fist. And they didn't hire him an inker. Will Portacio is not a young man anymore. He still has skill. You can see that he laid down the pencils very, very well, but it looks unfinished because they wouldn't even put out a couple of extra dollars for a comic book legend like Will Portacio to get him a fucking real inker.
Willis himself is an inker, but they're just not going to pay him to ink because he used to ink way back in the day. So he has an inking background. The thing is, he's not going to do it for free. And I think this is the reason why they probably hire a lot of these artists that do have an inking background, because they think, hey, if we just don't hire them an inker, they'll ink it themselves because they want their stuff to look good. We can basically get free work out of them. But you know what? When you're that age and you've already established a legacy like Willis has, I wouldn't do it.
I was not happy about that, but I wasn't happy about the entire issue, including the QR code stuff. You know, the opening story by Chris Claremont, kind of boring or whatever, but then it's Alyssa Wong. Somehow, halfway through her story in an anthology, it got canceled. And then you got like a Frank Thierry one-page Heroes for Hire advertisement, like they were recording an advertisement in the 80s, which was funny, but it's the only Heroes for Hire stuff in there. And then it's like Justina Ireland. Why is this person on the book? Why is Jason Liu on the book? None of these people are associated with fucking Iron Fist.
Well, we know exactly why Justina Ireland is on this book. Marvel decided that she's their new project creator. They're trying to give her screen time in comics right now to make her a name. She's their new project, the same way that, you know, Mark Russell was Dan Didio's little pet project creator. They've invested in her, decided to bring her into comics. So now they're going to stick her on abso-fucking-lutely everything in order to get her over. And then when it doesn't work, they're just going to call us racist again.
Iron Fist 50th anniversary got a lot of controversy around it. You know, it wasn't a good story. It wasn't a good celebration. The Chris Claremont stuff really was phoned in. It was Iron Fist training to fight Sabretooth with Wolverine. It wasn't too exciting. And then you've obviously got Alyssa Wong with Swordmaster as Iron Fist, Justina Ireland. I don't even know what that was. One page of Heroes for Hire, which should have been half the fucking book. And then they kill him off at the end with Jason Liu and Will Portacio. No inker on that one, so Will doesn't look nearly as good as he should look. And just an enormous disappointment all around. And then you throw in the cherry on top of that shit sundae, which is the QR code that actually shows you that he's been resurrected as some type of zombie Iron Fist or something like that. But who cares? They're not going to do anything cool with that. But there is some more stuff going on there with the Gimmickry. Distillery has announced it will release an expanded polybagged red label edition of The Missionary #1 by writer Ryan Stegman and artist Jason Howard. The special edition will include more violence and gore, and while the regular edition ends on a splash page, the red label edition winds up with a double-page spread that depicts additional off-camera violence. Both the standard and red label editions will be released on September 25th, 2024. The standard edition covers A through G are priced at $8.99, while the red edition cover H has an MSRP of $9.99. So we are expanding the red band gimmick out to red label for Distillery, and I'm sure it'll be coming to DC Comics and Image and all the other publishers in the not too distant future, because interior variants are the absolute worst idea in the history of comic books, so they should be adopted as a standard comic book gimmick to sell the book to the same people over and over again, just like variant covers.
This is the exact shit I warned every single person about. The exact thing that I told you not to support, because this is what's going to happen. If this is a copycat industry, it has been for a very long time. It will continue to be, and it will get worse and worse and worse. DC has spent basically the last 20 years just copying whatever Marvel did down to the creators that they used to do it. Hell, they've been doing it since they got Jack Kirby back in the 70s. Image started as a Marvel copycat publisher. All of these publishers are just copying, especially anything that has to do with sales gimmickry. And we're in a full copycat industry. Anything that succeeds, even slightly, everyone else is going to do. Doesn't matter how much of a novelty is. They will beat that fucking dead horse until it turns to glue. And then they will keep beating it until the glue dries up. Yeah, it's just going to turn to dust, like the comic industry itself, turning to dust as it fails and continues to do the exact same shit that somebody else did. Once again, don't support this.
Do you think it makes more sense for a publisher like Distillery, who clearly, once they announce what their comic book company was and what their mission was and what their priorities are, they don't see Distillery as a comic book like storytelling venture? They see it as a collectible type thing. That's what they want their comic books to be seen as, not as entertainment, but as collectibles. That's why you get the upped price on there, because it's a high-end collectible. I would almost forgive Distillery more than Marvel, since they don't do mainstream books, and I don't think they see them as books anyway.
I think that they try to market themselves as a collectibles house. If they were smart, they'd be basically copying Dynamic Forces model or Wizards model whenever they got into the semi-collectible space back in the day. Instead, they're trying to publish obvious Netflix bait and give it just a bunch of covers. They're fucking Dynamite Comics.
Well, just higher production value, better card stock.
Marginally, I mean,
$10 for a fucking comic book's a lot of money.
Have you looked?
$9.
Have you looked at some of the books that Dynamite? They've done it. I'm not saying they're doing it at this very, very moment, but they've done it. They've done it historically, where they have extra pricey, ultra.
Yeah, but every
rare
one of
variants.
Distillery's comic books are like $8 for the regular book.
They don't have the venture capital money that all the other companies do, and they know that they need to actually get into the black by selling at absurdly high prices, because they know nobody's going to fucking buy it.
Fly your gimmick flag high and proud, I guess, Marvel Comics, because you are literally trying to destroy the comic book industry. Hopefully nobody follows along on the stupid QR code nonsense where they're trying to prevent spoilers or whatever. It's not just X-Men, it's going out into other books there. And the interior variants I find exceptionally frustrating, but this is a comic book industry that you helped make, Doc, because you were a completionist. And a few years ago, you would have bought into all this shit because you're an idiot.
You know what? Yeah, a number of years ago. But see, they hit my breaking point at the X-Men color era when they went to 1 in 1,000 variants. I never looked back, because everybody hits their breaking point. Everyone should have hit their breaking point long before red bands. Those of you that haven't yet, what's it going to take?
We shall see. Doc and I talked about this for about 23 minutes. Obviously, we edited down here for YouTube. If you would like the full conversation about these gimmicks and all that kind of stuff, because we have lots of examples that likely won't make it into YouTube, and you would like the full review of X-Men #2 from Jed McKay and Ryan Stegman, you do need to go over to Thinking Critical Patreon. It's live right now. There's a link in the video description.